Morning, everybody, and welcome to So this is the morning, 15 minutes to change our lives. Learning the Maimer from the Tzemach Tzedek Izus in Yisrael, Mitzvahs Avos Yisrael. Today's class, today's shir is sponsored by Devar Lieberman and family in memory of Aharon ben Yaakov Refael. His neshama have an aliyah. Just a quick story before we start. There was one time, this lady was, it was back in the 50s, 60s, she was dating. And she was connected to the Rebbe, and they were talking about it. And the Rebbe was asking her, this is something I think it's very misunderstood. The Rebbe asked her, he goes, how do you feel about him? She said to him, she goes, I like him mitzad inyan of Avos Yisrael. The Rebbe smiled, and the Rebbe said, that's not what I meant. She was saying, well, what she was essentially saying is, I like him with after love every year. But it's not, I don't like him because I think he's husband material. The Rebbe was laughing, and the Rebbe smiled, and the Rebbe explained to her, like, I get what you're saying, and that's not good. To understand the other parts of the story, it's for a different discussion. But the discussion about obviously so that's, I just found that story funny. Okay, I'm gonna finish up the first parak. Then two parakim in here. We're gonna finish the first one, then we're gonna go to the next one. So from this paper, we're starting on page 26 on the top. We're discussing, so in simple, we're discussing that obviously Yisrael essentially is recognizing the connection. And we all come from the same source, and we're all really connected. Although down here we seem separate, but really we're all connected. And therefore we should love every person because it's just like you connect with them. We said even more that that's the reason why we need to have obviously Yisrael. We take upon ourselves obviously Yisrael before davening. What's the connection between obviously Yisrael and davening? Davening is to Hashem, and obviously Yisrael is between us and other people. So he said because when you're davening, it's like bringing a carbon. In the olden days, you used to have a big carbonis, and davening became mischalef was switched instead of the carbonis. So just like a carbon had to be without a balmum, couldn't have any blemishes. So a person lacks obviously so, then they have this blemish, they can't be brought out properly. And then you can't do Shema properly, and davening is not done properly. And this is sort of what we're talking about. So we're saying on the negative, when you hate another Jew, in your heart, what you're doing is you're separating from your soul that part. That's included within you. Because, like we said before, we're all really connected. So when you hate that person, you're separating the connection. It's like saying, I hate my arm. That's essentially what you're doing. When we have sinas chinam. When we have lack of obviously so. And then you're pushing it away. With this hatred, just say no, and you remove your will from him. You're not happy, you don't want to connect with him. So therefore, so then there's something lacking within the person that hates. This portion. Can everyone hear? So you're lacking that portion within you. So therefore, there's lacking within. We have the lacking. And then when that part is lacking, it's like a mum, like a blemish we have within ourselves. And therefore, when we have a blemish within ourselves, because every limb is included, like we said before, with all different parts of the body. That's because of the inclusion of someone else within him. So therefore, when you hate the other person, you're removing that part. Like we said before, it's like saying, I hate my arm and I'm going to cut it off. You're sort of separating your arm from yourself. So what happens when you do that? Then therefore you can't be brought up as a carbon. You definitely can't be a carbon. Because like it says, when you have a blemish in the carbon, you can't bring it up. Meaning that there's a blemish, we can't bring it up, and therefore it's lacking. And that's like sort of the physical sense. In the deeper sense, it's that the infinite light that's included, that in that love and Ein Sof, everything is there, all of us are there, and all our neshamas. Lo yis belenu, that it can't. So the Ein Sof can't stand this because of this lacking. Because by the Ein Sof, everything is there, and therefore, when you come and a person comes and they have hatred for someone else, it becomes a mum, and then for a brought up as a carbon. In the spiritual sense, the Ein Sof can't be included. You can't have that connection with godliness that you want. Meaning, or in other terms, you can't be connected to God. You can't have a connection to the Eibush, to Hashem, if you have sinner, if you have hatred to someone else. Not because it's because they don't go together. You can't be a good child to a parent and always fight with the other kids. It won't work that way. It just doesn't work. And it's like the famous saying of the Rebbe, when, like on Yud Shvat, when he became Rebbe, one of the things he said by the Farbrengen, quoting, it's the Friedrich said this as well. He says, a Yid and a Torah and Hashem are one. And therefore he said that if a person has a lacking he said, sorry, it was obviously Yisrael, obviously Torah, and obviously Hashem. The love of a Yid, the love of the Torah, and the love of Hashem. And he said they're all interconnected. And then the Rebbe says, you can't, if you lack in obviously Yisrael, so that means you have a lacking in obviously Torah and obviously Hashem. It can't be that you have obviously Hashem and obviously Torah, you don't have obviously Yisrael. So people now, so we're not. The Rebbe is not saying that you know what, you have to have obviously Yisrael. And I like them, even though I don't really like them, but I like them anyway. Now I wouldn't say anything not nice. What we're learning here is I like them because they're part of me. Now, sometimes we don't do everything well, and sometimes people do things that are wrong and they're hurtful to you. We're not saying that someone that hurts you, speaking not nicely, just love them anyway, like superficially. But we're saying we have to realize, as much as it bothers me or it hurts me what they're doing, I'm connected to them, and I got to figure this out. And that's what we're saying. Because if not, then there's an issue in ourselves that we're lacking this, and then we're not going to be able to connect properly. Because that limb of that person that we hate is lacking. Because by Ein Sof, everything's included in there. And also that person that we hate is also in there. So Vidal says, and it's enough for this intelligent person to understand. It's meaning if that person that we hate, if we have that, then Ein Sof can't handle this because it doesn't make sense, doesn't work with it. Now, if a person that's being not nice to you or doing something wrong, a simple understanding is, based on what we're saying here, is you have obviously soul and you just feel bad for them. Someone treats you not nicely, so you don't have to hate them. You just feel bad for them and really recognize how fortunate you are that you don't have that issue. That's it. And you can still have obviously soul. I love them, I care for them, and I wish for them the best. And it could be I could try to help them. It could be I'm not trying to help them. I can just leave them alone. But the obviously soul that we're having is the obviously soul is not just for them; it's for ourselves. And therefore, therefore, we were commanded for a few negative commandments connected with this. In regards to bringing a carbon. So, like together with the kohen, there's all these halachas. Also with the carbon itself. And like it says in Parshas Emor, meaning there's a lot of details in this in bringing a carbon, how the mumim and all the issues. Because it's the Rebbe is saying, he's saying it's because it's connected to our like those ideas are also within ourselves in regards to this whole concept of the Avos Yisrael and bring up a carbon. And we are also commanded to bring a carbon tamim. an unblemished sacrifice, meaning within ourselves, like we said about the davening, we have to bring it in. So all those halachas that are that's brought down in Parshas Emer in regards to a carbon, a physical carbon, also applies to ourselves. It should be accepted perfectly before Hashem. That's Aleph. That's Aleph. Essentially, what we're saying is that obviously soul comes from a realization that we're all connected and we're all connected in ourselves. Only when it comes down here, it seems to be separated. In our bodies are what makes us look separate, but in our souls, we're all connected. And that's why also when we daven, and davening is an idea. That's why I say in the beginning of davening, I take myself, obviously, so seemingly we ask, what's the connection? But we're saying it's because of the fact that davening is like bringing a carbon, and the carbon has to be without a mum, without any blemishes. And when we have a lack of obviously, so we're lacking, and we have blemishes, and therefore a davening can't be brought up properly as a proper davening. And essentially, what we're saying is, on a like more broad general term, is that with a lacking obviously, so we have a lacking in our Yiddishkeit, a lacking in our love for Hashem, a lacking in our love for Torah, and part of the issue that we'll have is this: if you see someone, they look very, very frum, very chassidish, they do all the right things, but they have like a real lacking obviously, so know that that's a problem. And it's not, you can't get away with it. Even though you might look at them and you might see, oh, I don't see any problems. Listen, everyone has their peklach, everyone has their issues. You don't know what's going on inside. Obviously, soul is a very important thing to have. Base. Now he's going to take it even a step further, and he's going to explain how this affects not just within ourselves, but till now we're sort of talking about ourselves. But now he's going to talk about how it's going to affect the world around us, like the whole world. And essentially what he's talking about, that just like we love ourselves, because of that self-love, we cover over, we excuse all our faults. So too, when you have obviously someone else, the same thing happens, and that causes God to react the same way. That all our faults will be excused. That's what he essentially says. Sure. 2. Space. Is bar hated. Tuv the mitzvah, even though we've explained very well the reasoning for this mitzvah. There's another wondrous reason with awesomely good that we're going to explain. That a person does for himself, in the whole world, fulfilling this mitzvah. We have to realize what we're learning now is how you can affect the whole world. And to the opposite, God forbid, when we nullify, we don't do this mitzvah of obviously so, and we do a negative commandment, you do a negative thing of not hating someone. When you do, so you're going against this. I know. So what is this? The explanation is like this. We also need, so he said, well, this will be understood by understanding why does Hillel use the negative language? What does he say? He goes, the son Allah, whatever is hated to you, to your friend, whatever you don't like, you don't do. Why is that? Why is he saying it in the negative? It doesn't say it in the positive. It could say whatever you like, other person likes. So like I said before, a few classes in, like what happened when I was in high school, my teacher said using the positive be negative consequences. If you like, says over here in this man. So why? So the question we're at is why did Hillel use the negative and not the positive? I think, yeah, I'll put one more and then one a little bit, and then we'll stop. So Anigla Mipshata Kasuv, particular question applies since the verse says Tigim Unclus as Unclus translates have mercy on your friend like yourself. That's much more of a positive terminology. That's how he explains this positive. So what's going on over here? So why does Rav Hillel use the negative? To answer this question, you'll have to come back next week. Everyone should have an amazing Shabbos. If anyone has any questions.